Do you hate yourself? Well, have I got the game for you. Eldest Souls has a questionable name, but it's a game that's all about the bosses. It's definitely a challenging game, dare I say even unfairly so. But enough with my complaining, we're here to dominate. Bring out the bosses so we can shut them down. Welcome to the Conqueror's quest for Eldest Souls. Meet the Watchdog, the game's welcoming committee with a bit more bite than bark. The not-so-friendly neighbourhood bouncer is here to get its ass kicked and chew bubblegum. And well, I don't think there's any bubblegum in this game. He gives you a false sense of security that this is going to be an easy game. All his attacks can be well telegraphed, and he only has one AoE attack that I would deem as unmissable. But I think that attack was only added to teach us how to heal up. Well, that's what I tell myself to help me sleep at night at least. But we survived the onslaught and the tutorial boss has been slain. Now let's move on to the real challenges. Just kidding, the Guardian is also a pretty easy fight. The towering brute might look intimidating, but he's a big softy underneath all that armor. Just be warned, for a guy in very heavy gear, he somehow runs faster than you, and that's why we always stay on the outside and call him names to bait him to chase us, and while he's tired, run in for the sucker punch. The Guardian, more like the guard you aren't. Okay, I don't know where I was going with that one, so let's move on to the next boss. Eos, the god of unity, is like stepping into a laser light show where the price of admission is your sanity. This is where Eldest Souls really starts, and bad news, there's no turning back now. This beast doesn't just attack, they paint the battlefield with radiant beams, which you definitely want to avoid, unless you like being burnt alive. Avoid the constant heat waves and snowstorms, and with enough patience, you can make it out in one piece. That's the name of the treasure at the Grand Line. AZIKEL is not here to enlighten you, he is more here to blind you. And while you're blinded, attack and attack and attack. Out of all the bosses, I think this was the most balanced fight. The only move I couldn't get the timing of was the Trident Strike, but all others had a decent window to telegraph his attacks. Sip and weave his attacks, and with enough counters, AZIKEL's light sparks out. I accidentally ventured into the unknown and was greeted by the teleporting monstrosity, aka ZYLAD, Lord of Steel. I felt like I was always running out of dashes in this fight. He can never make up his mind. Will he attack with his sword, his shield, scythe, or spears? Well, why pick one when you can attack with them all? But honestly, the move where he throws his massive red battle blade is the worst. And if he does that when he's using his Beyblade attack, it's basically a guaranteed death. This could have been a fun fight if those two moves weren't spammed all the time. But somehow I managed to beat this DLC boss, and now I shall return to the base game bosses, never to come back to the DLC area again. HYEM is blue. He's got a blue house, with blue windows, he wears blue. Blue are the words he says, and most importantly, the feelings inside him. He blew my death count way up as well. He really knows how to put the die in dubba dee dubba die. With all the things happening on screen, it made it impossible to telegraph his attacks because everything is just blue. Is it an attack or is it the arena? I guess we'll never know. Just kidding, it was always an attack. HYEM is my least favourite challenge in this whole game, and I am happy it is all over and I never have to see him ever again. The Deer God may look majestic and serene at first glance, but don't be fooled, this fight is anything but peaceful. I may or may not have rage quit fighting this boss, but since this is the only footage left over from the stream, I guess we'll never know. They charge, leap, and summon vines onto the battlefield, and at times it felt like nowhere was safe. With very little room to catch your breath, you really need to stay on the offensive, because if you don't, the deer will. But hunting season is just starting, no deer is safe. I couldn't contain my excitement after finding out that there is another boss straight after finishing the Deer God. Oh, Deer God indeed. The hardest part of this fight was that you had to beat the Deer God over and over, so it would take a while before you actually get to learn his patterns. But as long as you avoid the annoying wall moves, this one's pretty easy. DRAKMUR might say he's a nightmare, but he's honestly not too bad. Weirdly enough, as the game goes on, it seems to be getting a lot easier, and it's definitely not because I'm getting better at the game. Most of his attacks can be tanked and healed up before it even starts to get serious. DRAKMUR doesn't do anything too crazy, but do yourself a favor. If you see red orbs floating ever so slowly towards you, avoid them as if your life depended on it, because if you don't, you will be teleported to the Shadow Realm. But for now, it seems as though this nightmare is over. Now it's time for one of the easiest bosses in the game, and I'm surprised he faked them so late on. ARYANA's attacks are pretty weak, so I was finding if I rushed her, I would heal up before her next attack. So that's basically what I did. No need for a good defense when you have a strong defense, and it's proven right in this fight. And finally, we face EKSYLL. Too scared to face us head on, he decided it was better to break into the side of the building and poke his head through. Phase 1 was very reminiscent of the EOS fight. Smack the 2 balls until the health bar goes down. Phase 2 looked like he was taking all my skills away, but I don't think it actually did anything. So back to the smacking balls we go. And then after all my trash talk about him not taking this fight seriously, EKSYLL had enough. In phase 3, we see him in all his glory. Though I don't actually know what's happening in this phase, all I did was attack non-stop, and bye bye goes EKSYLL. And bye bye goes Eldest Souls as well. Let's bring on the stats. And if you made it this far, you might enjoy this next video, but be quick, time's running out.